The time has come for
I've got a message for you.
You grabbed my tit.
I did not!
Did so. My character would kick him in
The balls, Donnie, the balls.
Look, this is a class to develop your acting skills, not to make your partner a permanent soprano. Sensory awareness. Tell a story about what you found today. And let your imaginations run wild.
Well, pine cones are kind of ugly. I mean, I don't even know why I picked it up.
Put that down this instant. Leave it for the loons. Peter, I'm trying to be supportive, but if you believe you actually saw something, then you wouldn't be afraid to tell somebody.
I did see something.
Then why don't you tell somebody? Why don't you tell that sheriff we met this morning?
What's the point?
You're losing.
It's a huge shit sandwich, and we're all gonna have to take a bite.
Hi, this is Lar Park Lincoln from Friday the 13th, Part 7, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are, and we wish we could get as much enthusiasm up as Lar Park there for our double bill, our return to the airwaves. And yes, we have a shit sandwich for you, and we're going to share around. We've got enough for everybody. We're going to be covering two dubious delights, Bloodhook and Hollywood's New Blood, which were chosen by listener, is it Mike Alishan?
That is correct.
Yeah, but they would have been chosen by Nathan at some stage anyway, surely.
Yes. So we had to get them out of the way.
Yeah.
Two of the gems from the bottom of, or potential gems, we'll find out, from the bottom of the barrel of late 80s slasherdom. And I know one person will be very excited that we're covering them, and that's Erik, isn't it? No. Hello, Erik?
Hello?
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 Your voice was...
Yeah, did anyone else hear Justin just go completely... Yeah?
Yeah, his voice got very muffled. I could barely hear it.
So, same with me, yeah.
Well, as you can see, we return to the airwaves as professional as ever.
Yes, with the amazing joys of Skype.
Yes. Well, we've already had a few run-ins with Skype this morning, so who knows if we're going to, given the nature of the movies. I think it's like... what I was watching? I was watching that Stephen King adaptation of, is it 11/22/63? And whenever they try and mess with, when he goes back in time to stop the murder of JFK, and whenever he's close to changing history, time or history, he starts fighting back, and little things like trip him, gets tripped up, or everything starts going wrong. So I've got a feeling it could be like this because we're sort of history or time is trying to stop us covering Bloodhook and Hollywood's New Blood.
Yes. I watched that on Hulu, and I watched that on Hulu, and I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah. So, but we are back. We've been away we've been off the air for a while, for various holidays and illnesses and various things like that. So we're very pleased to be back. It's good fun. It's always good fun to get together to chat about these kind of movies. So, Erik, how have you been doing?
I've been very good. Well, I was very good up until earlier this week when I started having to watch these two films. Not to preempt what my thoughts are.
Is that because you were so overwhelmed by their amazingness?
Well, yeah, they're quite moving, yeah.
You thought you could never ever see anything as good as them again, so you thought, what's the point of going on?
Yeah. I was like, what's the point? Yeah. Well, because it's like we haven't recorded since maybe late February now, and like for the last 2 months I've been watching films I actually want to see. And so to sort of go back into the routine of watching films like Bloodhook and Hollywood's New Blood has been a shock to the system. Okay.
Well, was it like a kind of colonic irrigation?
It was kind of like a colonic irrigation, yes.
Okay, right. Well, we'll see what you think a little bit later. But Nathan, how about you? How are you doing? I bet you're excited, aren't you?
I am very excited. Because Erik's right. This is probably movies that I would have picked eventually.
Yes.
Yes.
You have them both on VHS, I'm sure.
Well, I don't have any VHS anymore, but I do own Bloodhook on digital.
It came out on digital?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime.
How else did you see it, Justin?
Well, I saw it because I have the original NTSC tape in my hand.
That could be any NTSC tape you're rattling there.
Well, does it have? What's the artwork, Justin?
The artwork is the woman in the bikini being hooked, and it says, "It's America's funniest and most frightening terror hit."
Here, look, I got
America's most
funniest. I have a Blu-ray. Listen, that's the original Blu-ray of Bloodhook and Hollywood's New Blood double feature that came out.
Well, I'll tell you what. While we're chatting, I shall take a photo and I shall send a copy to you.
Well, it's very easy to just grab this screen grab off the internet.
It's well,
your face will need to be in the picture.
Okay. Well, let's do that then, shall we? While we're talking, I'm going to put my microphone down. So talk amongst yourselves.
I'm watching Bloodhook right now.
So am I, for my sins.
Really? What part are you on?
It's just I just arrived at the Musky Madness Festival. I've just restarted it when we started recording. So
mine is Bev D welcoming them all.
See, I didn't even know what a muskie was.
I didn't either, and that's actually, I think, some trivia that I've got here.
Or a loon. I had to Google what a loon was as well.
Yeah, but that woman that kind of reminds me of Serial Mom, who sits at the table like.
Yes, she does. She's straight. Okay, here's the photo has just been sent through by Justin. Now let's see. Oh, fair enough. Whatevs.
Whatever.
Yeah. So it's got the meatballs artwork, as I call it.
Was this Evelyn guy in Bloodhook bare enough for you, Eric?
No, and I'd be put off by the fact that he's called Evelyn, which is a girl's name, surely.
Right. I mean, I think I've never heard of a guy named Evelyn.
Neither have I. Evelyn Champagne King. Where's Justin? I mean, he was only taking a selfie.
Yeah, Justin.
God, he'd never make a teenager because they can take their selfies. They can take 5 selfies in 5 seconds. His mic stopped working. He takes a selfie and his mic stops working. I mean, he's like
that's Mr. hysterical.
Yeah. Who takes a selfie and then the mic? That's like, I was trying to get on the internet and the fridge broke or something.
Yeah. We'll see this picture he just sent.
Is Joseph still there? Joseph's gone as well.
Hello.
Justin, you scared me.
Why?
I was at the scariest part in Bloodhook, and then the phone rang, and it startled me.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Well, that's, I think it's Skype being...
a cunt.
Well, I was going to put it slightly less funny, but yes. I just updated Skype, and it seems to be working a bit better now. So who knows? Let the fun begin, continue even. Yeah. So, without any further ado, have we said, Joseph, have we asked how you're doing? I've lost track now.
No, you've not asked how I'm doing.
How are you doing?
I'm doing.
You're just doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm having a bit of back issues this morning, but I'll be okay.
Okay. Well, just take it easy. And
plus, I have cats driving me crazy. They picked just now to start running around and making as much noise as possible.
Well, that's cats for you.
Yeah,
flushing toilets.
Yeah. Well, we don't mind cats being around the podcast, do we?
No, definitely not.
No. Okay. Well, as we got a double bill, we're not going to dwell too much on what we've seen over the last couple of months because we've probably seen quite a lot. But maybe if we have a chat about maybe one thing that stayed with us or something you want to have a chat about. So, Joseph, do you want to mention anything you've seen?
Yeah, I've been watching the TV series Slasher from the Chiller channel.
Yeah. And
the first couple of episodes were really, I wouldn't say great, but, it was entertaining and watchable. Man, this show has really just become so ridiculous. The problem is that they introduce so many characters, and rather than, introduce them, I guess, organically to the story, they just kind of like pop out of nowhere as if they've always been there, and you're like, who is this person again? And it's just so cluttered and just, I don't know, it's hard to follow. It's so like, labyrinthine just for a simple slasher plot. And the heroine, the main girl, she had to suck somebody off to get the lead role because she's just awful. She has a very hard time, like, doing an American or even a Canadian accent. You can hear like hints of Irish and Scottish just slip in from time to time. Actually, not even from time to time, just kind of like often. It's just, she's terrible. So I'm wondering how she got the lead role. It's got some good kills, some good atmosphere, but it's just so cluttered and messy. It could have been, so much better.
Okay, I haven't seen any of those, but I was kind of interested in catching up with it eventually. Nathan, have you seen any of Slasher?
No, I haven't.
What about Erik? What about you?
No, it hasn't been broadcast over here, so how would I see it?
Well, I don't know. I was wondering if it's out on Blu-ray in Dublin.
Erik.
No, it's not now.
Erik, how did you end up seeing Ash vs. Evil Dead?
It was on RTE, which is our national broadcaster.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Can
you send us proof of that?
My camera broke. Sorry.
That's okay.
At least his mic didn't stop working.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, fingers crossed, we are now beyond the sound issues. Yeah. We have other issues, but we are beyond the sound issues.
Yes.
So, anything else, Joseph?
A few things, but I'm not really going to go into anything else since we're on a double bill here.
Okay, right. Well, Nathan, how about you?
I haven't really watched anything that I haven't already seen. I rewatched April Fool's Day. I still really love that film.
That played in the cinema over here on April Fool's Day.
I would have loved to have gone to the theater and seen it.
I didn't go myself, but
that would have been so much fun.
Erik.
I know.
That would have been good fun, because of course that got released over here and probably in Ireland on the double bill with Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, if I remember correctly. So, I forgot the poster somewhere. So, fun movie. Excellent. Anything else, Nathan?
No.
No, okay. Erik, how about you?
Okay, well, I've been to the cinema, I hadn't been to the cinema for about 6 months, and I went to a flurry of movies. I went to see 5 horror-related movies in the space of, a couple of weeks. I'll just focus on one, but the ones I did see, I saw Goodnight Mommy, 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is excellent, The Boy, and The Forest, which were both kind of generic multiplex, ho-hum movies. But the one that everyone was talking about at the time was The Witch. Has anyone else seen it?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. So, if you want to.
So all I knew going into the film was that it was set in the 17th century and had some sort of spectacular reviews behind it. So I went in with a clean slate, not knowing what to expect. So it's about a family living on the outskirts of a dense forest, struggling with a failing crop and trying to make ends meet and all that. But the film starts on quite a grim note where their infant child is stolen from them. You don't see by who, but you do actually. It's a witch, although it's vague. Let's just say that some people think it's a wolf, some people think it's a witch, and so the supernatural element is kind of left ambiguous. Is it all in their minds, or is there actually a witch in the forest doing all this stuff? Blah blah blah. So as for the film itself, I really liked it, but for me, it was a very much a one-time watch, mainly because the film is quite grim and bleak, and there's very few laughs to be had in it. In fact, there's no laughs to be had in the film. Also, the dialogue's all done in sort of ye olde English, and it's delivered with heavy Yorkshire accents, which made it feel slightly stagey, and also it sometimes was hard to decipher what they were saying. You had to really think or sort of concentrate on the dialogue because of that. It was, on the plus side, the film's really atmospheric, really well acted, including by Kate Dickie, who's a Scottish actress who steals the movie and is brilliant in it. Which is the reason I mention it, because she was also in Prometheus, where she was really, really awful. So it's nice to see that she does have talent. So definitely worth watching. Not one I would purchase on Blu. Well, you know me and my purchasing habits. Not one I would purchase or Baby Jesus, because it's quite grim and bleak. It's just not a fun movie, but it's a very good movie. Justin, what did you think?
I had mixed feelings about it actually, because we went to cinema and I kind of guess I kind of swallowed the hype a little bit about it. I think it's one of those films that if I did see it again, I'd probably enjoy it more, because I was kind of I was holding out for a horror movie, and it isn't really a horror movie, is it? And
no.
all these which I had seen some reviews that said so, and but all these things about the scariest movie, or not of all time, but but it resolutely avoided anything approaching a kind of traditional scare, didn't it? And I think it could have benefited with a bit of some. I didn't feel that kind of unending dread that everyone was talking about throughout it. I thought it was very well done. The performances were fantastic, but it was more of a period piece than the horror movie. And I think I felt disappointed after watching it, because it wasn't what I was expecting it to be. That's not necessarily the movie's fault, it's the way it was sold. But I think if I saw it again, I'd appreciate it more. But I say I've got no great desire to rewatch that film. I think if the makers have actually put some kind of true horror elements, i.e. suspense or something, the dread of something like a Blair Witch Project or something like that in there, but there wasn't really any of that in there at all.
No, that was absent.
Yeah, and I think that was a shame. I think they could have made the film better by adding that in. It wouldn't have detracted from what else was going on, and so I was a little bit puzzled by the raves from some people as far as.
Well, for me, I generally don't like films that are set in. Oh, somebody's fallen off the bed. I don't generally like films that are set in sort of olden days. Like, this is set in the 17th century, and regardless of how good the film is, I generally don't warm to those type of films. So my expectations were quite low going in, and I was surprised that I didn't enjoy it as much as you can enjoy a film that's this grim.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would. It's not one I would go back to. But in terms of overhyped films, I thought it was much better than The Babadook.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Talking of people falling off the bed, was that someone falling off your bed, Eric? Have you got someone tied up in there?
Yeah, and he won't keep quiet. Bob, stop.
So, right, well, that was our kind of our rush through our recently seen.
Was The Witch your recently seen as well?
It was, yes.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, it's all right. Well, it's good to
just to say, 10 Cloverfield Lane I thought was excellent, if anyone has seen it. And
yes,
if anyone
phenomenal.
out there looks like John Goodman and wants to tie me up in the basement and slap me around, I'd be quite happy to do that.
It's kind of, maybe blasphemous considering I love the first Cloverfield, but I think it was even better than the first one.
Oh, yeah, I would agree. Totally.
Is it? Because it looks very much like from what I've seen in the trailer, and without giving too much away, it looks like Cloverfield was a big kind of epic, wasn't it, of destruction, whereas this looks like a kind of quite contained sort of drama.
It is, yeah. Okay. But it's just very well done, just really well done. And it's really engrossing, and it doesn't outstay its welcome, and it has a blistering final 15 minutes that I know divides opinion amongst certain audience members, but I loved it. So.
Yeah, same here.
Cool. Okay, well, that's one to look forward to seeing. So thank you, Erik. And, well, I think without further ado, I think we better dive straight into that Blood Lake, hadn't we? And Nathan...
No, it's not Blood Lake. I know they're quite similar.
Oh, is it not? Blood Hook. Sorry.
Blood Hook. We should dive onto the Blood Hook.
Let's dive onto Blood Hook.
We've already done Blood Lake.
We have. Oh, how can I forget?
With little Tony.
Okay, well, let's dive into the lake where the Blood Hook is lurking.
Blood Hook features Peter Van Cleese, whose grandpa was murdered years before, although it wasn't treated as a murder. But he always says that he did see something that day. So he brings his girlfriend, Anne, who loves to psychoanalyze people. Her friend, Kirsten, who is kind of the bitchy girl of the group. Kirsten's boyfriend, Rodney, and their friend, Fenner, who I love his name. Fenner. I name my fish Fenner. They all go to this Muskie Madness fishing tournament, and while they're there, there is a psychopath who's using like a giant fish hook to hook people and reel them in. So thank you, Boomer. Appreciate that. So I am actually a huge fan of this movie. I've seen it many, many, many times. I think the weapon is quite original, sort of like Killer Workout. You know, they got the giant safety pin. In this, it's like a big fish hook, and the killer casts the fish hook in. He's actually able to reel people in. Now, I don't know how realistic that is, because in all honesty, I feel like the hooks would just rip out of the skin. I don't feel like they would actually, stay in someone long enough to reel them in. But, I mean, in this scenario, it does. And my dog has decided that as soon as I need to start talking, he's going to get up and start roaming around and drinking water and everything.
That's dogs for you. Well, that's just adds, it's a colour to the podcast, isn't it?
But, I mean, there is a lot of stuff in this movie that's a little out there. I mean, number one, Bev D, who lives there and is working at the tournament. She has got to be one of the most neglectful mothers.
Mother of the year.
Believe at one point she leaves her kid outside in a crib and she goes running in the forest and just leaves him there. And I believe Fenner says something to her about, aren't you afraid he might get eaten by a bear or something? And she's like, well, I'll make sure you don't have any desserts first. So, I mean, that's her reasoning there. So, and I believe that, and I don't know if this is very clear from the movie, even though I've seen it many times. I believe that we're led to believe that Evelyn, who is the crazy, warlike guy, is Bev D's kid's father, because later they're sleeping together. So there's some weird triangle between Fenner, Bev D, and Evelyn.
I think she just did it all for the hooky. Come on, the hooky.
Is that your joke of the week?
Ooh. Yes.
Hooky?
It's a stupid
American slang term.
It's a stupid Limp Bizkit song. I did it all for the nookie. I just said the hooky.
All right. My Limp Bizkit knowledge is quite limited, I'm afraid.
You're lucky.
And there's this family in an RV, and at the very beginning they show up and talk to Mr. Ludke, who runs the bait store. And the dad is just unnecessarily rude to him. Like, there's no reason for him to be rude the way he is, because he shows up and he says, he's asking for directions. So Mr. Ludke gives him directions. He's like, well, why don't you put some signs up? He's like, that's what taxpayer money's for. Put up some signs. And I'm like, you're telling all this to a guy that runs a bait store. He doesn't exactly work for the city. Oh, and what did you guys think of Kirsten's hair?
Awesome. Totally awesome.
But she'll make fun of you, though, if you compliment her hair.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't just compliment her. I'll also like what was the name of the girl who does the yoga?
Anne.
And I like her zigzag earrings as well.
I love her earrings.
Yeah.
Although her character drives me crazy because she psychoanalyzes situations, and it can be a little annoying. And there's that scene at the end where the killer casts and the hook hits her in the hand, and she's able to get it out of her hand. But then she runs to the what is that thing? I don't know what it is. The little thing that comes down the hill.
Yeah, it's kind of like an elevator, travelator type thing.
It's a trolley.
I mean, that thing is so unbelievably slow, and she's sitting here pressing the button, waiting on it. I'm like, why don't you just run up the hill?
Yeah, he lays a cow.
You probably get there faster. And that's what's crazy about this movie is, for the people that see the killer coming towards them, you could get away from him. She could have easily gotten away from him, and instead she's standing there pressing a button and staying in full view of him so he can hook her again. So there's that. Oh, and I love when they first come upon Evelyn, and Peter goes, this is, Van Cleef's property. And Evelyn goes, don't you try to push me around or I'll torch the place. And did you guys, and we talked about this a little bit before, did you guys get the connection to Serial Mom?
No.
Well, I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
Sort of. The mom in the RV group who talks about the loons sits there and mocks but mimics the loon, the noises that they make at the dinner table in front of everybody, in which they all think she's crazy, which, she kind of is. And I love when she goes out onto the dock, and when the hook gets cast for her, like basically at one point you just see her spinning around in circles.
I thought she was going to turn into Wonder Woman at one stage.
She's just trying for it. Well, I think that I know Eric's opinion, so I'm going to ask for his first.
Yeah, okay, well, at the outset of the film, it looked like it was going to be watchable and had occasional flashes of entertainment. But on the whole, I found the film quite dull and overlong. And my attention was held for the first 20 minutes or so as we were introduced to the various characters, the fishing festival, that amazing gizmo that's called the Stud Finder, which I think we call that Grinder now, don't we? No laughs. And obviously I love the character of Kirsten, who's the Valley girl obsessed with music and her hair, but she doesn't like Elvis Costello. Bev D is a fun character too, the not exactly mother of the year, as we were saying earlier, letting her child just frolic in a lake while she's doing her exercises, back inside. And I like the mother in the Obnoxious Family too, as you're saying. She's straight out of a John Waters movie with her loon impressions. Loons being apparently some kind of water bird that I had never heard of because, I'm not into that type of thing. And also muskies I'd never heard of before, Nathan, which apparently are some kind of fish.
There's a fish,
yeah. The new wave guy Rodney, who wears the fishing hook as an earring, was quite fun too. But as with a lot of these slasher movies, all those interesting characters are killed off quite early. And like the lead character, Peter, I found to be quite dull, even though he looked exactly like the bass player from the Icicle Works, which, Justin, I don't know if you got that impression. Were you an Icicle Works fan back in the 80s?
I wasn't. I know of them, but not...
Okay. Yeah. Well, one of the things did you get those audio clips I sent you during the week?
I did, yes.
Okay. I love the fact that he's portrayed as some sort of musical prodigy, and when he goes to improv on his little Bontempi keyboard, his work is, shall we say, atonal. Have you got the clip of him playing the keyboards, Justin?
Is this the Bloodhook keyboard jam?
That's it. Wow, bursting with melody. It actually reminded me, one of my favorite songs is a song by Japan called Ghosts, and the intro to that sounded not dissimilar, if you have that one as well, Justin. See? Uncanny.
It is very uncanny.
Very, yes. So maybe this guy Peter is just a genius and I just can't see it. Yeah, and... Sorry, that's just finishing now. One of the other things I found kind of interesting, just peculiar about the film, was that military-obsessed guy is called Evelyn, which I've never heard of a man called Evelyn before. It's a girl's name, surely. No?
There's a He-Man character named Evil Lynn.
But I think...
That's still a girl,
and it's a girl, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, but on the whole, I mean, like the slasher element, when it does begin, that's when I begin to lose interest, ironically, because it's the same concept repeated ad nauseum. Somebody falls on the hook, or the hook sort of embeds it. I mean, and it's not that graphic. You don't see sort of close up, high quality special effects of hooks ripping through skin, like in Hellraiser or something. So once was fine, but then the novelty soon wears off. I did find it kind of interesting that even though they know all their friends are being killed by somebody, they still, go drifting off in lilos in the middle of the lake and fall asleep, which I thought was... Well, I know that they're kind of going for an obvious comedy element to the film, which didn't really work. So it's not the worst film we've ever covered, but...
Damning by faint praise.
Yeah, no, it isn't. And you know what? I was surprised at how sort of well made it was, considering the budget I'm sure the film was made for. It is quite well made. It's dull. And when it comes to films like this, films that I call Nathan films, I use my inverted commas fingers there, sorry. I prefer the ones that are slightly bonkers, like Boarding House or Night to Dismember.
Me too.
Films like Bloodhook could do with ironically, they could do with a hook. They could do with some degree, a degree of insanity, preferably unintentional, that would just make them more interesting and more fun to watch. I just found Bloodhook really, really dull. As I said, I was surprised at how well made it was, and I was kind of with it for the first 20 minutes thinking, okay, this could go somewhere. But by the end, it had really outstayed its welcome. 91 minutes, so I think it's 91 minutes, is it? I could be wrong. It just felt way too long, and I got bored with it very quickly. Sorry.
Ironically, Eric, it was Justin who chose not to dismember when we were.
I know, yeah. Yeah, but it was very much a Nathan style movie, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, I loved it. And I wanted to say, right quick, spoiler alert, that one thing I love about this movie is that it's one of the only movies I've seen where the killer is killing people because they're giving him a headache.
Yeah.
Joseph.
There, I think that says it all. I don't think Joseph needs to.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on Bloodhook. No, this is a movie where I was just kind of jotting down notes, just kind of reaching for some entertainment value. I don't think any movie centered around fishing should last, 10 minutes, let alone 90 plus. So some of the notes I took, I was kind of like, playing on my phone whilst watching this, is I thought Peter looked like Hart Bachner with Down syndrome. I thought.
I didn't say that.
I just did. I did like Bev's LGBT-friendly short shorts with the rainbow on them, and I noticed that she also has hairier armpits than I do when she was lifting her little weights. While
I was wondering was that shadow or was
I thought it was a shadow, but maybe not. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, whilst her child was frolicking in the lake.
Yeah. Her child, who we should specify, is probably under 1 year old and shouldn't really be left unsupervised by a lake.
I did like Rodney's fishing lure earring, and I thought he was a dead ringer for John Cryer. Did anyone else see that? Yeah.
Yes, I can see where you're coming from with that one. Yeah,
I think the biggest question I'm left with this film is I wonder if Erik found the guy's potbelly sexy, even though it got impaled with a giant fishing lure.
Which guy?
The dad in the RV.
Oh no.
Not necessarily him, but just his protruding stomach.
I wasn't really paying attention to his protruding stomach, but when the scene comes up in Bloodhook, which is playing in the background, I'll let you know.
Okay. For the most part, I'm in agreement with Erik. I think the movie's well made enough, but it's just so boring, and the subject matter just does not interest me at all. Even from a comical standpoint, I like unintentional comedy in slasher films, and I don't like it when they try to be funny. I mean, a few films can get away with it. Here, it just I didn't really laugh so much as cringe, and just kind of consistently check my iPad for something better to do. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to give a pass to Bloodhook.
Yeah, my iPad was definitely in overdrive whilst trying to watch Bloodhook.
It's 1 against 2. What about you, Justin?
Well, I think it's probably 3 against 1.
Well, darn.
I thought I've had this VHS for years. I must have picked up in the
Don't
States.
pick it up or the mic will break.
Oh no, right, I'll put it down again. It's cursed in about 1999, and I never watched it, partly because it had trauma involved, and I'm just not a trauma fan, and also I thought it was going to be some hideous horror comedy. I mean, I was half right, but it played a lot straighter than I expected it to when I finally got down to watching it. I think the thing that put me off slightly was also I thought on the back of the video box there's a shot of the two. There's 2 shots. There's one of the 2 corpses that you see being pulled through the water at the end, which look like they're aliens. And I thought
it does. It's the weirdest makeup. Yeah,
it's really bad makeup. Well, kind of strange makeup. They look like they've either been in the water for 5 years, and somehow preserved and turned into and gone by Area 51.
Yes,
it was very strange, and that's why I thought it was going to be some kind of weird sort of trauma-esque piss take. And next to it is a picture of the kind of new wave couple, which is slightly more alluring. But I also was not,
alluring.
Well, comparative.
Alluring.
What?
Come on, you didn't get it? Alluring.
Fishing lure.
Oh,
yeah.
no,
That's your joke of the week.
Is it? Thank you. I also wasn't sort of taken in by the other thing on the back of the video box. Says critics all over the world have discovered Bloodhook and are all hailing it as the best in years. Which
best what in years?
Really?
The best fishing-based slasher movie in years.
Exactly. So I didn't fall for that. I mean, I did when it started. I thought, well, this might be like Erik. I thought this might be all right. And I was kind of half watching it, and then I didn't really understand how the father died, because he seemed to be listening to some music, and he's got this kind of stupid child who doesn't know what a tape recorder is, and then he just suddenly does a little pirouette and then falls in the water.
Yeah,
I think it's supposed to be similar to the mother's death later on the dock.
But
I think
Wonder Woman death.
I think it's like he's supposed to have gotten hooked, and you just didn't see it, and it pulled him in the water.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Well, I just wondered maybe. I thought I half thought about recutting that clip with Toya on it, but I thought against
I
it.
was waiting for that, because there's a scene in the film where he tries to distract the killer by holding up a stereo playing music, and I thought, oh, he's probably listening to Toya or something.
Yeah, but of course I'm not that childish, so I wouldn't do that.
You're not that childish. No, of course you're not.
I thought some of the scenes approaching kind of professional. I like the scene with the guy in the boat being killed on the speedboat. I thought that
where
was
he lies,
quite well
he's
done.
sunbathing and he lies down on the hook.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah.
I thought that was kind of quite well done, but it just didn't really. It was trying, and also some of the dialogue was quite witty, surprisingly. I mean, there were things like I can't hear myself drink, and then he was going on about Beethoven and Mussolini and things like that, which there's a germ of a funny movie in there, but it's, again, with a movie that's trying to be funny that isn't funny, it can be the complete opposite, which is kind of basically, ironically, the crickets playing, and of course that was, am I right in thinking that it was something to do with the crickets that are driving the killer mad?
Yeah, the cicadas mixed with the music or something.
Yeah.
Something, yeah. It's kind of... yeah. But there's this artificial cicada sound all the way through the film, which was really grating, I thought. No?
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing. I mean, one of the kind of the links in some ways between these two movies is the geriatric killers, isn't it? Because he basically is an old man with a fishing rod that anyone should better run away from. I mean, obviously it's not based in reality. You've got this kind of killer with an incredible aim, being able to throw this massive fishing, what do you call them? Like what, hook, or with like the thing at the end? Allure, okay. But and is able to hit at first, like 60 feet or something, throwing this thing across the lake and hitting people in the neck and stuff like that. I mean, it's obviously not based in reality.
Every time I see stuff like that, I think about one of those witch warlock movies with Julian Sands. There's a guy who basically throws a spear like 100 yards. So every time I see stuff like that, or the killer's got precise aim from like far away, I just call him Dexterity Bob.
Yeah. It was I don't know, it kind of it just didn't gel. It didn't really work for me. It wasn't silly enough, but it wasn't straight enough either. It kind of just fell into the middle, which was just like blur. It just wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah, that's the middle.
Meh.
Yeah.
Meh. Blur is Justin's version of meh.
Yeah. Well, meh. Blur. But it wasn't. Yeah, it just wasn't enough of anything really to be to hold the attention, which is a shame. It could have been better. Well, it could have been better. It could have been a lot better, but it wasn't.
Could have.
So Nathan, I'm afraid it is 3 against 1. Although you yourself said it wasn't. It's not really high up on your list, is it?
No, I mean, I do like it, but it doesn't have that rewatchability that, say, something like Movie House Massacre or The Last Slumber Party has.
Well,
I don't know. I can see where you're coming from with Movie House Massacre, definitely, because of, I keep forgetting her name. Selena, yeah, she's brilliant.
Well, that was another film that had a geriatric killer, wasn't it?
We could have done a triple bill.
I can't even remember who the killer was in Movie House Massacre.
It was just some random old man. It's like young Mr. Grace, not you being served.
All right.
But But yes, is there anything else to say before we go into like all 2 lines of background?
Normally I'd try to remember stuff about films and say, what did you guys think about so-and-so scene? But aside from my notes, I really don't remember much about Bloodhook.
Well, it's a difficult film to concentrate on. I mean, as I, like, God knows what I did with films like this before the iPad or the iPhone was invented. I was like, oh.
I know what I did. I avoided them.
Yeah.
I think, to me, one of the issues that I do have with Bloodhook is I feel that a lot of stuff in it came across a little sloppy, like the whole Bev D, Finner, Evelyn, like, situation. Like, I mean, I've seen it several times, and I still haven't quite put together how that all came about. I mean, it's like she's totally into Finner, and she's a single mom with a kid, and then suddenly she's sleeping with Evelyn, and that just seemed to come out of nowhere to me.
She's a hooker.
Yeah.
And then,
she's a blood hooker.
And then everybody seems to love the same song. They replay the same rock song throughout the whole movie.
It's kind of a catchy rock song, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. It's just, it's probably the only song they had.
It's not as good as the one from Houseboat Horror. That's still my favorite rock song in a horror movie. Young, cool, and groovy.
Just an aside, Evelyn can be a man's name, or it used to be.
Really?
Anyway. Yeah, it's Evelyn Waugh, who's like an English novelist.
Oh, right, I thought that was a woman.
No, it was a chap. But there were quite a few.
Yes, I'm not that intelligent.
But they used to have not.
You can disagree with me with that statement, Justin.
What? Well, no, I just took it as a statement of truth. But there used to be, back in the day, there used to be quite a few sort of like girls' names, or names that we now kind of see as sort of more associated with females, like Evelyn. No, I was going to say Erik. And I was trying to think what other ones there are.
This is scintillating.
It is scintillating. But anyway, if you can think any more ladies' names, send us an email. But
yeah, please.
Susan. I know lots of boys called Susan.
Exactly. So, any background, Nathan?
I have background.
Okay.
It's made by the guys who were involved with Mystery Science Theater. They actually went from this to something that actually is comedy. So I thought that was neat. The town where it was filmed, that giant fiberglass muskie really is a big landmark in that town. The director has a cameo in the movie as a local speaking to the sheriff. Sorry, I've had bad allergies right now. It was shot in 6 weeks.
They've got bad allergies right now, Nathan.
I'm getting very emotional about these films.
Yeah.
Let's see. It was shot in 6 weeks.
It took them 6 weeks. God.
Yeah. Maybe they filmed on weekends like we did with Night Before Easter. The original title was Muskie Madness. But Troma, who picked it up, didn't think people would know what a muskie was, so they changed it to Bloodhook.
And they were right. I had no idea what a muskie was.
They were very right. So, and right quick, and I forgot to mention this earlier because I think Eric's the one that said it. Like, to me, some of the stuff like involved the fishing part of it, I just don't care. Like the one guy, he's caught cheating and all this. Like, to me, I don't care about that. I'm like, couldn't we have thrown a few more people in for a body count instead of this nonsense of this guy who is going to cheat at a fishing tournament? He's got his own little side story for that.
Mm.
But anyway, that's the trivia that I have.
Okay, well, thank you, Nathan. Eric, have you got anything else for us?
Okay, just one other thing, and this is in relation to its UK release. It was certified in 18 by the BBFC in March of 1987 with some cuts, although what exactly was removed from it isn't detailed, but I just imagine it's close-ups of blood and hooks going into flesh and that, blah, blah, blah. But it caused controversy for another reason over here, and that is due to its artwork, which I sent you an example of the original draft of artwork they had I sent that to you yesterday. It's basically a woman screaming with a fish hook going into her mouth and coming out of her cheek. And the wasn't there a video advertising committee or something back in the 80s who would approve artwork for sleeves? But they said no to this anyway. So the video company came back with a second iteration where they put a little water ripple to kind of obscure the hook going into her cheek. But again, they said no. So the final version of the VHS cover was the hook was removed completely, so it's just a screaming woman's face basically. Whereas in the US, you get that artwork that Justin has, which makes it look more like a Meatballs-based comedy. Where the UK one is quite good though, but it makes it look more like a bona fide horror movie, which, as we know, it isn't. But it isn't a bona fide comedy movie either. So neither VHS artworks were representative of the film, I have to say.
Okay, well,
but it was difficult to find background information. A lot of the actors didn't really appear in anything else after this. I wonder why. But that's it.
Well, absolutely, yes. Well, thank you, Erik. Joseph, anything?
Coming off of what Erik and Nathan said, the BBFC cut was 16 seconds, I believe. What they actually took out, I have no idea. It was the director, Jim Mallon, who... he actually, as Nathan said, he wrote, produced, and several, if not all, of the MST3K episodes, and he was also Gypsy on the show. In an interview with the Key Grip, Kevin Murphy, who is most famous for MST3K as Tom Servo, and he's one of the 3 riff tracks leads. He recalled that for the film's premiere in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the crew built a boat dock outside the theater that the audience would basically cross as they entered. Let's see, you mostly did all this. In the television show Parks and Recreation, the 5th episode of season 5, Bloodhook is the scary movie that plays at the Pawnee City Hall Scary Movie Night. They refer to the film as Death Canoe 4. And that's all the background info I have on the film.
Okay, well, thank you, Joseph. The only thing extra that I've got is a quote from Lloyd Kaufman, who typically said, I think...
Says, sorry.
Sorry? He said
his quote was, sorry.
Unfortunately not, no. It's more typical of what you might imagine him to say. He described when they were having it, sort of trying to sell it at, is it MIFED? MIFED? M-I-F-E-D? I don't know where that's... it's a film festival.
And Milan.
Is it Milan? Sure. It could be Milan, actually, yeah. And he describes the film as a fishing movie, a terror film with a lot of comedy. It will do for fishing what Jaws did for swimming. So there you go. And of course it didn't. Incidentally, did the MST3K, did they ever riff on this movie?
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
You would have thought they would have done. So
they should have.
They should have done, yes.
I might have enjoyed it a little more then.
Well, that's the first half of our double bill. So the next film is such a spectacular, it doesn't even have a trailer. Well, at least we couldn't find a trailer for Hollywood's New Blood, but I have got a bit of dialogue, so we're going to play in with that, a scary campfire scene, and after that Nathan will bring us back.
A long day, a hard day, a productive day.
We didn't even get to go outside.
Maybe tomorrow.
This whole area looks so familiar.
Well, it should. You've seen it on The Late Show 1,000 times.
Yeah, in the 60s and 70s, they filmed a lot of movies up here. It's only a couple hours from Hollywood. Yeah, past tense, before it happened. Yeah, one of Hollywood's well-buried mistakes.
Yeah, I heard rumors in L.A.
More fiction than fact.
I was born near here. That was the lake I swam on as a kid. It was true, all right.
Am I the only one who doesn't know what's going on around here?
The film crew was up here about 16 years ago. They had one last scene blowing up this old house. The cast had started partying. Doping and drinking up pretty good.
Some things haven't changed.
Mitch, let him talk.
They wired the explosives. After joining the party for a while, they returned for the final scene. Boom. cameras worked fine. Only they rigged the wrong house. I remember waking up. The explosion shook the countryside. Eight people. The whole Gloucester clan. Blown to bits. Scattered with the dust.
Man, that was frightening. Hollywood's New Blood is about a group of very skilled thespians wanting to hone their skills a little better by going to this, like, I'm guessing, like a little seminar in this cabin in the forest. And I mean, I think that the clip that Justin just played kind of helped my intro out, because that's basically your story. And the three brothers in the explosion have come back, and they're killing off these, you know, like I said, amazing actors. And I mean, I don't really know a lot to say about Hollywood's New Blood. I mean, in all honesty, it's not a good movie. I didn't hate it. I feel like you three might not have enjoyed it as much as I did. But
well, what do you think? Have a guess.
But I mean, I didn't hate it. I thought there was enough like ridiculousness. I mean, the killers themselves, anybody could get away from these people. I mean, they move at a snail's pace.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
And yeah, well, that's why these are a double feature. There's many similarities.
Yes,
I got an airplane
one big
going
similarity.
over me now. But I mean, it's definitely late 80s. I mean, you can obviously tell that just by the fashion and, you know, hair and all that. I particularly love the scene where I believe they're all going like on a search in the forest, and the you know, dim-witted blonde, I should say, comes back with a pine cone that she is very oddly fascinated with. The other blonde, who I don't think is much smarter, decides that she wants to tan in the middle of the forest. So she like lays down on the ground, pulls her tank top, you know, straps on her shoulder down a little bit. And she's wearing a denim skirt that comes down to her knees, and then she lays there. And I guess that's how she plans to tan. I'm not exactly sure. It just seems very off to me. And, you know, the girls at the end of this film, they are so useless, because the guys fighting the killer at the end are one of them. And the girls just hold each other and scream in the corner. I'm like, they don't try anything until one of them goes over and very, you know, feebly tries to like pull the killer away. And he like throws her off without any issue. And I'm like, if I was the hero of the film, I'd just be like, thanks for your help after it was all over, because they really didn't do anything. So I don't really know if I could even call them the heroines or anything, because they didn't really do anything except scream and cower from the killer, who's not very scary. And the story behind why these killers are killing, to me, is actually ridiculous as well. I mean, they rigged all the explosives to the wrong house for a movie. I mean, like, this didn't wake anybody up. I mean, in that house, because I feel like that would be something that they'd have to do a lot of work on. I mean, they're not just walking over with sticks of dynamite and just throwing it like next to the house. I wouldn't think, but I've not been on the set of a big budget film, so I don't know. I mean, that might be how we would have done it in the movie that Joseph and I made. We might have just threw a few sticks of dynamite and let the rest.
We should have.
Yeah. I don't think any of the cast or crew on this have ever been on the set of a big budget movie.
No. Let's see. What do you think of the film, Justin?
Well, I think I preferred it to Bloodhook. It held
Really?
my attention, a bit more. It's very by the numbers. It's quite lethargic, which is kind of basically, it kind of matches the killers, which are so slow. I mean, there's three geriatric brothers that literally one of them drags his leg behind him like Igor. and it's impossible to believe that they could catch anyone. But having said that, the actors in this are so stupid that they do get caught. I mean, it shows how stupid they are when one of them finds what he thinks, as part of the show and tell, what he thinks is an animal skull, which is clearly a human skull. And he seems incredibly shocked to discover that it's a human skull, even though that anyone who's ever seen a human skull would know that it is a human skull, which I think it turns out to be the mother of the brothers, doesn't it, the skull?
Oh, yeah.
But he, just go how perhaps not set in reality the film is you've got these three geriatric brothers who are out in the woods, whose faces are still blackened by soot from the explosion from 16 years ago. So you would have thought they might have at least washed their faces in the past 16 years, but no.
Wouldn't they have been better served like suing the movie company and getting a bunch of money out of this?
I think they should have. Yeah,
you would have thought so.
Yeah, like they could afford it. For a lawyer. Yeah.
I like the scene. I mean, the scene, the woman with the dark hair who gets killed. Basically, it's a kind of a rip-off. Well, not rip-off, but it's of the scene in Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, where is it Deborah Sue Voorhees gets killed?
Debbie
with
Sue,
the shears? Yeah, with the shears, and so you don't. It's the whole thing is fudged. The gore in this is pretty much non-existent, but. She gets killed with garden shears, but her acting in this is hilarious because she's just kind of, she's just like, oh, don't kill me, almost checking her watch to see if it's time for her to check out.
Wow, that was good, Justin.
Well, thank you. I also, to show like how lack of gore, it's one of the first kills in the movie is of an actress who, and I use that term advisedly, who decides that she has to go back to Hollywood because she said Hollywood can't bear to be without her or something along those lines. And she goes, she gets in the car, and then all you see is a shot of her bosoms, well, her top, and then a trickle. Literally, somebody gets a teaspoon of fake blood and pours it between her breasts, and it trickles down slowly. So the killer, it's clearly she hasn't had her throat cut. She's just had like a minor flesh wound, if that. But that's pretty much the pattern for the movie. The only gore effect I kind of guess is when one of the killers get a pencil to the eye.
Yeah.
And the one thing I thought had a certain sense of pathos about it, which the rest of the movie doesn't, is the idea of shoving the mother's skull into one of the killer's faces. I thought it was ridiculous, but also had a kind of strange kind of pathos to it, which, as I've done a review of this film for Hysteria Lives. Bizarrely, this was the movie that inspired me to write another review. God knows why. I must have just been in the mood, but. As I said, that even in the most dire of 80 slashers, sometimes there's moments within it that are genuinely not unnerving, but sometimes come out so out left field you can't help but sit up and take notice. So I didn't hate it. I think it was the fact is that it's only 77 minutes long, and the last 10 minutes are a recap of the first 70. Or so minutes. Goes to show that it was obviously there must have been a troubled shoot. There was obviously some problems with it, but it's so by the numbers. The acting is so poor. The pacing is so kind of slow. It just never really builds up a head of steam until the last kind of climactic 5 minutes, when there's a little bit of a kind of a cheap jack kind of thrills to be had, but I have seen worse, so there's damning with faint praise.
You're right about the last 10 minutes, though, with the recap, because it's funny to me that they don't use like stalking scenes or killing scenes in this recap they do. It's just random scenes of characters talking and walking. I'm like, they don't even use the action scenes, quote unquote, from the film. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, well, as you were saying, I like the idea of a movie special effects crew accidentally blowing up the wrong house as a premise. I mean, it's like the sort of tragic Brandon Lee incident taken to its most ludicrous extreme. The thing with these types of movies, when they're made with this kind of budget, and the budget is so low, and it requires something special to happen behind the scenes. We have a special director, a Sam Raimi or a John Carpenter, or failing that, an escaped mental patient like Doris Wishman, or John Wintergate, who directed Boarding House, as I was mentioning earlier. But with films like this, there's a degree of technical competency, I suppose, on view here, but the result, again, like Bloodhook, is just incredibly dull. In fact, Bloodhook would be the superior film, in my opinion. Sorry, Justin, to disagree with you there. Neither film is a masterpiece, but I think Bloodhook has more to it than this. This feels just like an empty shell of a movie. There's, although there is, murder scenes in it, it just feels like nothing happens for the 67 minutes, pre-recap that the film is on. It should zip by. Something that is 65 minutes long should just fly by. But it doesn't. It feels like I'm watching a 3-hour superhero, boring super, Batman versus Superman type movie. Is there anything to like in the film? Well, yeah. There's the sarcastic dark-haired girl that Justin was mentioning, who gets killed like Debbie Sue Voorhees, with her bangles haircut, and her boyfriend. They're quite funny because they're obviously not taking their acting retreat very seriously, and they're kind of sarcastic. And one of the other things I love about the film is you were mentioning, Nathan, where the acting coach tells the students to go out and find an object to bring back to the house, and his exact words are to let their imaginations run wild. And so their version of letting their imaginations running wild is to come back with a pine cone, and somebody else comes back with a pebble. So they're not that imaginative. The film misfires way too much, though, for it to be in any way enjoyable for me. It needed an element of silliness, which it has in a very small amount, but it wears thin after a while. The killer family are dull and uninteresting. And they really could have done washing their faces, as Justin said, because it was hard to tell the gender of them. I know that they're described as three brothers, but if you didn't know that from the outset, who are they? What are they? Are they human? The film just has no pace or no momentum, no suspense, anything. It's up there with Terror at 10 Killer and the Boredom Stakes for me. Just lots of people like that 10-minute recap of people just wandering around talking. It is just the epitome of the movie. I mean, you're saying, why don't they include any of the highlights of the film? Well, they are the highlights of the film. The people just wandering around and talking. That's all it is. Struggle to hold my attention, whereas other sort of quote-unquote bad movies would entertain me. Even something like Crazy Fat Ethel 2, which I think had a similar running time. At least it had a streak of WTF running through it that made it sort of watchable to agree. But there's nothing outlandish or daft enough in Hollywood's New Blood to perk up the tedium. So, yeah, I was just incredibly bored by it. And the sooner I switch off this film and never hear of it again, the better. Sorry.
That could go on the video box.
Yeah.
Is it your least favorite film we've ever covered on the podcast?
I'd have to have a think. I'm sure there's probably worse ones that were maybe as boring but longer. I didn't like the.
So this one was mercifully short.
Mercifully short, yes.
Okay. What about you, Joseph?
And that's my thoughts on Hollywood's New Blood. I like the meta before it was meta approach of really bad actors in a really bad film going to an acting seminar. I thought that was kind of clever.
Was it intentional? I don't think it was intentional.
I don't think it was either. I'm really reaching here. You stare at, all the acid wash denim and feathered hair. You just basically, you reach for anything. But even worse than Bloodhook, I don't remember anything about this. And sadly, I actually watched bits of this last night just to kind of refresh, and I still don't remember anything about it. I do remember the interminable final 10 minutes of recap, which is just obvious padding to reach feature length running time. Man, I'm struggling now. I didn't even get any good notes out of this other than the fashions and the girl who steps on a pine cone and goes into detail about this pine cone.
It's nature's way of telling us we should wear shoes.
Yeah, I thought the killers looked like 6th grade stage play hobos They look like, if it wasn't soot on their faces, they look like they had those painted 5 o'clock shadows you'd see on some kind of like what's it called? Back in the 30s and the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, the vaudeville stage recreations of stuff like that. I got some humor out of that. Maybe I liked the I like a couple of the death scenes. The one with the hedge clippers, that mimics Friday the 13th Part 5. I thought was just kind of haha. But boy, I'm really reaching here. This may be the first movie on the podcast where I just, even after you watch it and 5 minutes later, it's not even a memory. It's just I don't know what it was, but I think this for me is the worst film we've covered.
Yeah, and it's not bad enough to be fun is the problem.
And at least something like Terror at 10 Killer had Josh with, "Hey babe, me and you got some problems." This had none of that. I mean, it's just so dull and just so forgettable. I just don't have anything else to say, I'm afraid. So
there are some
a big thumbs up for me though.
Oh, big thumbs up, of course. There are some moments of brilliance in the film, though, like in the first death scene, when Justin's talking about the boob blood. Well, when she gets killed, she turns her headlights on, and then after the death, the headlights go out, and it's very artistic.
Well, that's just, she probably just, failed. She probably had a crappy battery in her car.
I feel the filmmakers were trying to be very artistic. Maybe, trying out to make the movie a little better than...
I think the filmmakers couldn't afford a car with a battery.
What do you think the reason... Was it just me, or did the forest sounds sound more like the rainforest?
It did. It did sound exactly like a rainforest.
Were there monkeys in the background?
Yeah.
It sounded like
there was monkeys going from tree to tree above them.
Why would a girl go out in the woods to tan? I mean, wouldn't the trees kind of block the sun?
Well, and why would she stay fully clothed? I mean,
yeah.
I think most women, if they tan, they're in like a bathing suit or something.
Yeah, and if you're in a horror film, you take off your bathing suit as well.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because that's the other thing. It's there was no nudity in it. There was no gore, and all the prerequisites of 80s slasher movie were missing. And if there was a really scary or suspenseful thing going on underneath instead, then that would have been that. But there wasn't either. So it is slim pickings, definitely.
So I have to say about that.
I don't have a whole lot on this one, just because, excuse me, darn allergies. Because, there's not a lot of background or anything like that. There's none. I don't have anything.
The only thing I have is the director went on to direct Slashdance the next year.
Has anyone seen Slashdance?
Yes, it's marginally better.
Oh dear.
Well, I wouldn't say better. I'd just say a little more competent. Maybe a little more entertaining.
I'd rather rewatch Hollywood's New Blood than rewatch Slashdance.
Really?
I found Slashdance to be even more boring than New Blood.
My God.
I don't know.
And Slashdance is longer, too.
Why are you being so mean, Nathan? That's a horrible thing to say to somebody.
It's just, I wasn't a fan of Slashdance. I thought it was very long and boring.
Wow. Well, there you go. That's damning faint praise again, or not. Any backgrounds?
I have just a few things just about people involved in the film. Okay. Joe Ballock, who I don't know what the character's name is. Who he plays? I don't frankly care. He's the one who says to pee or not to pee. That guy. He went on to be in 2 Umberto Lenzi movies, which are actually much better. They were made for Film Mirage, which was Joe D'Amato's production company. Hitcher in the Dark was one where he had he was the lead, and the other one was Black Demons, which I think he was the lead in that one as well. Both are both are trash, obviously, but they're really entertaining movies. He'd also appeared in, is it Moonstalker was the name of the slasher movie? And he was in a 1987 Andy Milligan film that I haven't heard of, but it's called Monstrosity, which makes me want to watch it. Is that Stripes or is that Argento?
And Stripes.
Stripes, of course. Bobby Johnson, who plays Brett, who I think, again, characters' names just go in one ear out the other. I think he's the lead actor in Hollywood's New Blood, is he? Is Brett the lead guy with the mullet?
Yes, the lead guy, yeah.
Yeah, he went on to
they all had mullets, so...
Well, it's true. He went on to be in Demon Wind, which I've never seen, but I remember it on the video shelves back in the day and being
oh my god,
of some sort of Evil Dead type movie.
It is hysterical. No?
Is it good?
It's much better than New Blood. It is like a really funny version of Evil Dead.
Cool.
Unintentionally.
Demon Wind, isn't it the one with a holographic cover?
Yeah, it's like if you turn the VHS cover different ways, like it looks like a demon's like breaking through glass.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's another actress whose name I didn't note down in my really enthusiastic research for this film, so let me just Google her. Her first name is Francois. Anyway, she went on to be in Demon Wind as well. But Brett, the lead guy, ended up moving into those softcore movies that used to star. What was her name? Who was that famous?
Shannon Tweed.
Shannon Tweed, exactly. Yeah. And they had titles like Animal Instincts and Sinful Intrigue. So I can just picture what they were like. But that's all the behind the scenes I have. Obviously, I don't. There's not a plethora of information out there about Hollywood's New Blood. A lot of the actors didn't go on to do anything else.
Now let us never speak of this again.
I wish Demon Wind was a slasher movie because I mean it's really funny. There's like a scene in it where, like. They're all at this, cabin. It's a bunch of people, though. It's not just 5 like in Evil Dead. It's a lot of people. And one guy gave this speech how he'll always protect his girlfriend, and when the demons get released or whatever, she ends up somehow getting turned into a doll. And he picks the doll up, and the doll says something like, "You lied," or something like that. And right after, they've seen this girl get killed and turned into a doll and all that, this other girl wants to talk to her boyfriend because she didn't like the way he was looking at this other girl. Because that's really important when you've just seen your friend get turned into a doll.
Yes.
They have their priorities in order.
Can we just talk about Demon Wind and just forget this?
Oh, I wish we could have watched Demon Wind.
It's almost
a funny
over,
movie.
Joseph. It's almost over. We'll be moving on to feedback in a minute. Has anyone else got any backgrounds? I've got a couple of bits.
I don't have anything.
No. Okay. The Francine Lapenzi, who played Liz...
That's who I was thinking of, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. She was in a very, very obscure slasher movie called Hanging Heart in 1983. It's so obscure. It was made in the States, but was never released in the States. I think it's only ever released in Brazil and Poland, or... So I've never seen it, although I do now have a copy. So I will be watching that at some point. So it's kind of probably one of the most obscure slashers out there.
And where did you get that copy, Justin?
From a friend from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, well, as it's never been released.
Was his friend called Jesus?
It was Jesus, yes.
Jesus.
Baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus, who kind of sent me a copy. Donna Lynn is on the... Because the trouble with the credits, well, you can't attribute blame because it just gives you the credits without telling you who played who. And because quite a few of the cast never went on to do anything else, it's actually quite difficult to work out who was who in the cast. But on IMDb, the link for the person who played by... Well, listed as Donna Lynn links through to an actress who was born in 1936 and was a Playboy model or playmate in 1959. So I couldn't work out who she could have been unless she was one of the killers in the blackface. I couldn't work out who she'd been, so I think it's probably a miss kind of attributing of, and it was a different actress. But so probably the real Donna Lynn probably is quite pleased that no one knows that she was in this movie.
She's safe in the back of her Pinto.
Yeah.
I would have been proud of it.
Well, I know you would have been, Nathan, but that was Hollywood's New Blood. So, shall we anything like to say about the double bill before we move on to some feedback?
Was somebody moving around?
Yeah, I was moving around. Sorry.
Oh. All I want to say is that while I did prefer Bloodhook, Hollywood's New Blood will get a 5.5 out of 10 for me. It's a little bit above 5.
What?
Well, just for the unintentional humor.
A 0.5 out of 10 for me. And that's being generous.
Ooh, 2 minus 3 equals negative fun. Let's do that. Yeah. Negative 10 for me.
Okay. Well, let's move on. Let's brush those under the carpet. And let's move on to some feedback and see what you've been sending us over the last couple of months. And before we do that, here's how to get in contact with the show.
Be sure to search for and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at THC_podcast. Our voicemail is 858-233-9281. And you can email us directly at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com.
Before we do that, I was just going to mention that it has been announced actually that we're going to be doing a commentary for Satan's Blade for the Arrow UK release. And that, I don't know when that's coming out, but it's just been confirmed on the Arrow page. We're also going to be doing some...
It's my favourite type of blade.
It is, yes. We're going to be doing some others, possibly some others for Arrow, which we'll let you know about in due course. But so watch out for those. But feedback, who would like to go first?
I got feedback.
Okay, do you want to go?
It says, "Hi guys, I recently got the Blu-rays for Pieces with the limited edition puzzle, Burial Ground, and The Mutilator. All 3 movies look great with excellent features. I would like to hear your thoughts if any of you have seen them." And that's from Robert Chardello.
Okay.
Well,
I've got the Burial Ground Blu-ray.
We covered Pieces. Was he talking about the Blu-ray specifically?
Yeah, like if we've seen like the Blu-ray with all the new special features and stuff.
No, I don't have it yet.
No,
I don't have it either. That puzzle looked cool.
Yeah.
What was the other one he said? Burial Ground and
Pieces. The Mutilator.
Yeah. Mutilator. I have Mutilator as well, which looks excellent as well on Blu-ray. Both of them do. So
we were offered a commentary for the Mutilator, but we had to pass. Right? Was that right?
Did we? I don't remember.
No,
I think so.
I don't think it happened for whatever reason.
Obviously, it didn't happen.
Yeah, no. But I've got the Burial Ground. I've got the 88 Films release, which is really good. It's got. Have you watched the extras on it, Eric?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Have you seen all the sexy extras?
The what?
The sexy outtakes.
I don't think I did. Did I?
Did you not? It's all the deleted clips. There's just basically loads.
Oh right,
of
yeah. With some no sound, is there?
With no sound, with everyone just getting off with each other.
Yes, yeah, but a lot of that's in the film anyway, isn't it?
Yeah,
no?
Well, actually, I don't think any of that stuff is. I think they just kind of obviously did a sexy cut, which they didn't use in the end. So
is Peter Bark in any of the special features?
Thankfully,
no.
Thankfully, he's not in the sexy scenes.
Aww.
He isn't. He's in one scene where he's in the back of a car looking grumpy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Mama,
you can probably live.
Mama.
You can probably live without seeing those. I haven't seen the. I will have to pick up the Pieces release at some point.
I'd like to see the Pieces one. I'm not bothered. Well, I would obviously like to get the Jigsaw, but I'm not bothered if that one's sold out. But yeah, you see, I have the special edition Blu-ray or DVD that came out a few years back, and I don't know. Is there enough new content on the Blu-ray to warrant a purchase?
I don't know. It's Grindhouse.
I'm not sure. I have the one that you have, Eric, and
the Grindhouse one. Yeah.
The special features for the new one. I didn't know how much more special features they could put in because the Grindhouse one had a lot.
Exactly.
It's 2 discs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, somebody's trying to dial.
Sorry, I
it's Joseph.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Joseph, you're not having a good morning.
I'm trying to order a pizza over here.
Actually, talking of, I forgot. Did we get any feedback on the boards about these movies?
We get a couple of things. You mean to read those off?
Yeah, we might. Yeah, that'd be good. As we
okay.
Feedback.
Michael Lake says, "Nathan, I love you. I even like some of your picks, but both of these movies are trash. 100% unenjoyable trash." That was from Michael Lake.
Oh, Michael.
Tristan Comer. I think he sent me a friend request. I don't know the guy, but anyway, he says, "Never seen Hollywood's New Blood before, but I enjoyed Bloodhook. Criminally underrated flick." That was from Tristan Comer. Rob Doyle says, as for Hollywood's New Blood and Bloodhook, I've never seen them before, but I'll try and get a hold of them and post any thoughts that spring to mind. God help me. Larry Lou says, I definitely think there's some very interesting camera work in Hollywood's New Blood, but the budget just wasn't there. Reminds me of the Goosebumps TV show a little. Joshua Grattan says, there are dozens of worse slashers than Bloodhook, and the one time that I watched it was pleasant. I'd revisit. Hollywood's New Blood is in my bottom 5. I'd rather watch 10 Killer 10 times over than this shit again. Jack Castillo says, there's some fun to be had with Bloodhook, but Jesus, Hollywood's New Blood, you guys may have found a new low. And just when you think it's over and the pain has stopped, you get to watch another 10 minutes of so-called highlights of this turd sandwich. Why does Nathan hate us so much?
I don't. I love you all so much.
Let's see. Michael Lake again writes in, said, also, this should be called Nathan's Shit Show 2, Return of the Feces.
No, it's Nathan's House of Love.
Dave Rendone says, Bloodhook, I'm still reeling from terror at 10 Killer.
Oh, very good.
Very good.
Alan Dorich says, I stand with Nathan on Bloodhook. Fun movie.
Yay.
Steve Symington says, Bloodhook, the movie that hates paperwork almost as much as Office Space. And finally, Jack Castillo writes in again and says, oh, baby, this hurts. Oh, baby.
Well, it certainly did. But thank you for that feedback. So, who would like to go next?
I have one here. This is from Jenny. She says, hello, gentlemen. It's Jenny again. I'm now proud to follow the podcast every time it's out and to write to you. Thank you for reading my messages and replying to my questions too. I don't think you've mentioned it during the Maniac podcast, but did you know that the Michael Cimbello song Maniac from the Flashdance soundtrack was first written as an inspiration to them by the Maniac film? I've always found this interesting. They later changed the lyrics to fit with a different and more positive mood, and then it went on to be the hit single that we all know. I know you are reading the feedback at the end of the podcast, but right now I'm curious to hear you all talk about Suspiria. To be honest, I've never seen the film as a slasher, more as a supernatural horror movie. So for sure I'll be all ears with passion because it's one of my favorite among others of its kind. But as you're reading this, I probably know your opinions, so thank you in advance. Yes, was Suspiria our last episode? I can't remember.
I believe it was.
It's been so long. Okay, now to end this message, I'd like to ask you another question, but it's more about your knowledge as slasher pros. Do you know any slasher or semi-slasher films in which there's a transgender character that is not the killer? Being a transgender person myself, I realize that none of the movies I know, and you know what movies I talk about, are portraying the subject in a different way. When Joseph asked this question in a quiz, you'd kill too if you carried around one of those your whole life and had to keep it a secret at the behest of a crazed family member. What movie does this killer belong to? Oh, that was one of your quiz questions, Joseph, at the time.
Yes, and it was Unhinged, I believe it was.
Oh, was it? Yes.
Yeah.
And none of you guys have found the answer, but to me, it was so obvious. Then I was wondering, what does it say about myself? Anyway, tell me if you know a movie in which a trans person is not a killer, please. I'll repeat myself, but you are amazing, and I can't wait for the next episode. Take care and have good times. From Jenny.
I can't think of any horror movies like that.
With trans characters?
Wasn't Aunt Martha from Sleepaway Camp a trans person?
No, I don't think so.
Could have knocked me over with a feather.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think. I don't think it's a character. There's as far as
I suppose something like Hellbent. No, that wouldn't have trans. No. I don't know.
No,
it's got
I don't think there is
a niche market. Yeah.
I guess I have to write one for a new movie or something just to make her happy.
Yeah. Well, if anyone can think of one, let us know. So, but no, thank you, Jenny, and hopefully you enjoyed our Suspiria show. Okay. Joseph, have you got one?
Yeah, I've got another one here. It says, hi, guys. I only discovered your show about a month ago, but I had to let you all know how much I enjoy your entertaining, informative, and hilarious discussions about all things slasher. I started way back at the beginning with the first show and have been working my way up to the present. I've also been listening to the current shows just so I stay aware of what's happening with you four now. The Suspiria discussion was terrific, by the way. I love the old episode about the house on Sorority Row because I grew up in Pikeville, Maryland, where the movie was filmed. I also love all the punk, goth, 80s music references, since that music will always have a place in my heart. No offense, Justin, but I'm on Team Toya.
Ugh. Yes. In your face, just.
And here's a surprise twist. He actually says, "No offense, Eric, but I'm on Team Susie."
What?
Yeah, he's on Team Susie, Eric.
Yay!
Sorry.
What? No, but what did he say Team Toya for then?
He didn't. I was lying. I was lying.
No, you weren't. You're lying about the Susie thing.
Oh, well, there you go.
You'll never know. You'll never know. He goes on to say, a question for you. Forgive me if this has already come up at some point during any of the shows I've yet to hear. What are your takes on horror films that have slasher, mystery killer elements mixed in with the main story? Isn't that pretty much the movies we cover?
Yeah,
I mean, they're all slashers and mystery killers for the most part.
I kind of guess there's a lot of films that, like, you could argue something like Basic Instinct.
Well, he goes on to say, I'm thinking of movies like The Howling, Silver Bullet, Jeepers Creepers, or Dog Soldiers. Okay, I get what he's talking about now. Clearly connected to another genre, but with motifs that are found in slashers. I know you
doesn't
cover.
stop us, does it, Joseph?
No, he goes on to say, I know you cover Alien and Predator, so I realize you guys make certain allowances for films not generally considered slashers. And I think I've said it, or maybe even Justin has said it, that, you know, if there's more than enough tenuous links, we'll consider covering it just to kind of pick it apart. So that's just my take on it.
And also as a welcome relief from films like Hollywood's New Blood.
Yeah.
But you can't deny that Hollywood's New Blood is a slasher.
Well, we can give it that much, I suppose, yeah.
Anyway, he says, last but not least, I want to praise my favorite crappy film, Bloody Pit of Horror. Certainly not a traditional slasher, but a weirdly entertaining proto-slasher with some endlessly quotable dialogue. Keep up the good work, and thanks for making some long business trips more bearable for me. And that was from Aaron, E-R-Y-N. He wrote a follow-up email, just wanted to let us know that he is a guy with a very strange, almost girlish spelling of his name.
Well,
which kind of ties into the Evelyn thing. So
there you go. That's a symmetry for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Aaron, I agree with
names.
you.
Justin, do you have any feedback?
Do I have any feedback? Yes, I have one bit of feedback.
No, sorry, I was just trying to do a segue there. Said speaking of girls' names, Justin.
Oh, Erik.
I'm naughty.
Shall I do my bit of feedback?
Well, no, have we finished with Joseph's one? Sorry.
Yes.
We are, okay.
All I was going to say is I agree with Aaron. Bloody Pit of Horror is actually a lot of fun if you guys haven't seen it.
Is that with Mickey Haggerty?
What?
Yes. Is Mickey Haggerty in it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I have seen it, yeah. Very good film. So, okay, I've got a short one here, and it's just about to watch Appointment with Fear, 1985 or 1987. Erik, get your mind out of the gutter. You decide, a.k.a. Deadly Presence. Okay, credits are rolling. Who's the director? Alan Smithy. Love this guy's work. Can't put my finger on it, but something's telling me it's a troubled production. If you know the cast list, you may figure out how I came to this, watching as I'm typing. Great mid-80s schlock. I recommend for you guys. Erik will be having kittens when he sees the outfits. Love you all, except Nathan. Alan Dale, a.k.a. Andrew Rooney. So, what's your beef with Andrew Rooney, Nathan?
I don't know. I must have done something.
I know exactly what you've done.
Wow,
what'd I do?
Well, we're covering. Look what we're covering.
Oh, of course. Oh, okay. Well, in my defense, though, this was a
Somebody
listener pick.
It. Yeah, Mike Alishan picked these.
Yeah, so it's really Mike's the guilty one, but I do accept some blame because, as Erik has said, I probably would have chosen these movies eventually anyway. So
you did choose.
Let's kill the Alishan brothers.
Justin, what was the name of that movie you were discussing there? Because I was too busy giggling at the start that I missed the title.
It's Appointment with Fear, and it says Alan Smith.
Oh, that's got Debbie Sue Voorhees in it, doesn't it?
It has. Isn't that with Is it Nico Masterakis, or is that a different one? Is that
and it was produced by Mustafa Akkad, I think. Let me look.
Yeah.
Ramsey Thomas is the director, aka.
No, it's Alan Smithy. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'm thinking of the one with who's the woman?
I remember
Meg, the woman with really blue eyes. Meg
Tilly.
Foster.
Meg Foster.
Meg Foster.
No, don't think she's in it. Don't see her in the cast
film
list.
That's, I'm getting.
I saw this back in the day because it had Mustafa Akkad, the creator of Halloween, and I rented it. And I remember thinking, "Oh, what a pile of poo-poo!" But I'm sure it would be kind of fun to watch now, 30 years later.
Okay. What am I thinking? I'm thinking of the one that's got Meg Foster, and it's a point with something. Let me look it up. It's where it's like it's got something wind in the title. It's
The Wind.
Appointment with the Wind.
It could be that one.
She's in The Wind because I used to have the poster of the Friday the 13th Part 5 that used the Wind artwork, and I remember Meg Foster being on the poster. So
right, Edge of Terror. I think I'm thinking of, isn't it? Is it Edge of Terror? Which is AKA a novelist is stalked by psychopath one stormy night. Edge of Terror, 1986. The Wind, original title.
Oh, right, that's Nico Masterakis, yeah.
Yes, that's who I was getting confused with. So yeah, I don't know who directed Appointment with Fear.
Alan Smithy.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So, I think we're kind of coming to grinding to our conclusion, aren't we? I think, is that all the feedback?
Yes.
Well, we're having a little bit of a break from listener picks just to recalibrate and
cleanse our palates. I think was our correct phrase, wasn't it?
So we are going to choose. We're going to choose a few of our own choices, just to shake things up a bit. So it's my choice coming up next time, and it's going to be so frightening you'll never recover. Ooh, yes.
Nice hint.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to be going to hospital for a spot of visiting hours the next show. So I think back to the golden age of the slasher movie. So that one should be quite a lot of fun to talk about, hopefully. So we'll be back with that.
I hope you have an interview with, what's her name again? The actress in it?
Lee Grant.
Lee Grant, yeah. We hope to have an interview with her because I think she's really proud of the movie. And she's anxious to talk about it. That's if she's still alive. I don't know if she is.
I'll get one with Shatner and Ironside while we're at it.
Okay, we'll have a three-way, as it were. So, thank you for listening. Anything else we wanted to say?
I just want to say that I think my cat is basically summing up these two movies. I can hear her, just kind of shifting through the litter pan right now.
Oh, well, we'll sign off before she leaves.
I disagree with your cat.
Oh, well, there you go.
My cat's
tell
never
us,
wrong.
Write in and let us know if you agree or disagree with our views on Hollywood's New Blood and Bloodhook. But we'll see you next time. So what are we playing out with, Joseph?
Well, I figured we needed something good from the 80s, so we're playing out with Everlasting Love by Howard Jones.
Okay.
Ooh, I love Howard Jones.
Yes.
Okay.
I was in his fan club when I was young.
Wow.
Did Toya have a fan club?
She did have a fan club, Justin Kurzweil.
And were you in it?
No. I was in Bananarama's fan club, and then I ditched them to go into Howard Jones's fan club.
I was in Bananarama's fan club.
No, you weren't.
I was.
Really?
In about 1983, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same year I was there in their fan club.
Well, there you go. There was two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't last for long, but there you go. Anyway, fascinating stuff. So we'll see you next time, and hopefully this isn't going to be too garbled because we've had a few Skype battles.
Yes.
And some reason the disc, it just comes up and says disc is full. Stop recording, even though it's not.
Not recording this episode again.
So,
yeah.
Well, hopefully I'm going to play back and there will be something to listen to. But yeah, it's all conspired against it getting out there. But let's see. It could still all go horribly wrong. So, fingers crossed it won't. And we haven't just wasted the last 2 hours, like we wasted the last 2 hours of our life watching the movies. But thank you for watching and listening even. And if you've been watching the movies, then I hope you shared our pain, and we'll see you something slightly classier next time on the Hysteria Continues. So say goodbye to the good people.
Goodbye, good people.
I need an everlasting muff.
Everlasting muff?
Yes.
Can you guys hear the water?